So, last class you recall that we did a switched power junction, right, and it was a buck converter. It is a DC-DC converter, and I took it for granted that everybody knows the operation of the buck converter. So, hence some confusions there. So, you are the process you are familiar with, right? You do the large signal model, then averaged large signal model, then follow it up with linearization, then extract the steady state, extract the small signal. So, this is the small signal model that you will get. So, where the confusion probably would have come about is here. This, right? How did this wave shape come about? I'll just, for those who have not done a buck converter, I'll just explain this. So, this is a buck converter, DC-DC converter. This is the switched power system, where you have a single pole double throw switch. When it is connected to point A for a period of time dTs, we have replaced it in a semiconductor real practical circuit as a BJT or a MOSFET. When it is connected to point B for 1 minus dTs, we have replaced it by an uncontrolled switch diode. Okay. So, when this is on, this point is Vi and this is V0. Again, we neglect the ripples and we essentially say that Vi is a fixed voltage, V0 is also a constant DC voltage. So, what is appearing across the inductor is Vi minus V0, and we saw that in the when we did the model during the time when this was connected, dTs is L di by dt Vi minus V0. So, this di by dt is the slope, has a slope by L. So, that is this rising slope, this rising slope part here. So, in the steady state, if you see, this is dTs time 1 minus dTs time. So, this is on and off time of Q, Q on, Q off. So, if you look at the inductor current just for one switching period, this is Ts. So, Vi is higher than V0, this is a positive voltage across this one. You will see a slope here determined by Vi, V0 and L. It is upward slope, positive slope. Then during the time when this is connected to B during 1 minus d Ts period, during this period. So, this node potential is now 0, okay, and therefore, the voltage across the inductor is 0 minus V0. So, you are applying minus V0. So, this would become 0 minus V0 by L. So, you have a negative slope. So, this keeps going cycle by cycle. So, that is what I indicated there. So, starting from 0, so you start like that and then it reaches a steady state. So, the steady state would look like this. So, this again will continue in this fashion. So, this one ripple there corresponds to a time period Ts corresponding to the switching period or the carrier frequency. And by averaged large signal, we are taking switching period by switching period and equating it to one flat top value, equivalent flat top value. So, you will have these flat top values. So, that would be the averaged large signal, still not compromising the dynamics, you still have an idea of the dynamics, but within the switching period you lose the information. So, that is what it means. We will close this topic of modeling here, but it is a very deep topic. As I said right in the beginning, modeling a system, modeling a plant is 80% of your effort. 20% of your effort only is design. Once you have a good model, designing the controller and the estimator is a very, very easy and quick job. You will spend more and more time in modeling. In fact, years. Getting a good model can take years. In fact, getting a very good model for the induction motor has taken probably 100 years. If you look at the initial induction motor models built by Tesla, and then gradually the average models, the V by F model and the vector control model, it has spanned decades, right? And coming to the level of implementation, it has taken so much time. So, modeling is something you should not underestimate. That is going to take a major chunk of your time in coming out with a good controller design. But at the same time, you should not say, I do not know the model, therefore I will not do a controller design. Okay. So, we have controllers which are robust even in the absence of very good models. Take for example the PI controller. The PI controller, not good in dynamics and performance, but it will give you reasonable performance, but very robust. The plant can be a black box. So, you start off with that. So, you will at least have your function being done. You see, there are three important things in any controller. I will say the three S's. One is stability, steady state accuracy, speed of response. These three very important performance criteria to which you will try to meet any particular system, any design, they have to see that you are meeting these three things, three important things. Stability is something primary. You need to see that it is stable and there are no unbounded growth in energy and any of the state variable parameters. Second, in the long run and during steady state, what is my error? Do I get good accuracy? If I set in a power supply my output voltage to 15 volts, do I get 15 volts plus minus 0.1% or plus minus 1%, or is it plus minus 10%? Depends. So, what is that steady state accuracy that I will get? So, that is a very important performance criteria. This is in the long run, that is when you take the time domain with respect to time, any state variable or output parameter or even y. So, if you give a step response, okay, somewhere here, let us say I could have an error like this. The error could go to 0 or it could have a finite error. So, this is this zone is the steady state zone, let us say. So, this is one measure that you have to be bothered about. You need to have good accuracy without compromising on cost and other performances. Stability, of course, there should not be growth, otherwise you will see it grow and oscillate probably. The third aspect is this region where you are talking of transients, when there is a disturbance, when there is a change in the load, when there is a change in the input, when there is change in something, even any uncertain parameter, how fast it goes back again into this zone. So, this zone, the dynamic or the transient zone. Also very important, this tells you how fast I will be able to transit into the steady state zone. So, this will give you the speed of a response, the third parameter that you should worry about in any controller design. So, if you take for example a robust PI controller, a general purpose controller, PI controller, it can operate for any general purpose plant, a black box plant, give you zero steady state error, good stability, but where you probably may find it lacking is in this zone. Okay. So, as you start learning more and more about the model, you will start improving this. Okay. So, as you start going deeper into the model, know more about it, you will find better controllers which can replace the PI controllers, and mostly the significant effect will be in the dynamics. Okay. So, that is what would result in knowing a greater information about any particular plant. Okay. So, that we will see. So, that is why I said you do not need to lose heart and say that I do not know the model, it will take many years and therefore I will stop. You start with it and then keep improving that. So, over a period of time you will get a better response. So, the output of the exercise bond graph modeling or any modeling for that matter, you will land up with the state equation like this plus. I have not written the output equation, this is the state equation. This actually consists of all the dynamics within it and all the input, every information is there in that one, but in general it is a couple, it goes along with the output equation y which is equal to Cx plus du. This is the output, could be a feedback output or it could be a performance output. Many places in the literature you will see this replaced with Z. They will say performance output is Z, feedback output is Y, but anyway, as long as you know what you want to do with the output, you can use any variable. So, output, which is a function of the state and function of the input, whether any input is directly fed through to the output. So, these two equations, the state equation and the output equation, entirely defines your system. And we know how to get these through the process of modeling. So, that is your starting point. Okay. All these are in the continuous domain. Okay. Because if you want to get a transfer function from here, you can use that, right? So, Si minus A inverse B will give you C. So, this would be your and I will take this as 0. So, that D does not come in here, okay. Or you should put a plus D. So, you can get your transfer function, but when you are doing transfer function you have to take one single output to one single input. So, you would define which that one is. So, if this is having multiple, if this is a vector having multiple inputs, you take only one input, consider the others are not there, or one at a time you can have. You could also use the bond graph for debugging. Let us say for example, let us say Vi. Some circuit like this, we use it, right, equivalent, we replace it with where our transformers are there, an approximate equivalent circuit. But just tell me what happens, what is the bond graph? So, I will start with this Vi L sigma 1, and this is, I will put as Lm, right. Are you practicing bond graphs? You take the networks book, any networks book, there are a lot of circuits, okay, so that you can restrict yourself to electrical domain. Okay. Practice, take different circuits, keep practicing, so that you should just look at it and start drawing. You need not go through the multiple steps which I illustrated before. Okay. Now, causality, how will I do that? First the source, I will put that. Next, which one I will do? Should I put it like that, like that, like that? Then follow through, what will happen? So, there is one away. So, here this has to be towards the junction, one away, both these should be towards the junction, there is a conflict. There is no effort decider for this. So, you know that this circuit is not realizable, this cannot exist. Okay. So, there should be an effort decider. So, you can say, go looking back. So, let us say there should be something there with like this. So, probably it could be R, it could be C. So, then go back and then say, which means that there should be something here. Now, causality is proper and you know that it is a realizable circuit. So, many a times you will see that systems, if there is a conflict in causality, it is not a realizable system. So, then you can address that causality issue and then go back to the circuit, or the system, and then put the relevant component and then see what happens. So, you will be going more closer to reality. Okay, so, causality plays such an important role to actually model a proper realizable practical system. So, now what we will do is take a look at our DC motor plant. I said last time that we will see how we go about determining the various parameters of the plant. Okay. So, what are the parameters that we need to determine? So, go back and look at the state equation. So, if you see in the state equation, there is in the A matrix there is an RA, there is an LA, there is J, B, right, mechanical side parameter J and B, inertial element and friction element, and there is a K, gyrator parameter, right. So, these values we need to obtain. How do we obtain? Look at the nameplate. In the nameplate, what is given? See, generally what is given in most of the nameplates in the DC machine, if you take, will be the armature voltage and current rated, and rated speed, maybe torque also, developed torque rated, the field voltage, not field voltage, field current would be given most of the nameplates, and sometimes K is also given on the nameplate, but in many cases you will have to look at the data sheet. Okay. Well, the data sheet is not available, then you should still be able to estimate K for the given machine. Okay. So, let us say that nothing is there with you, you do not have the nameplates, nameplate is removed, and data sheet is not there with you, and you have been given the machine and you need to estimate. So, what do we have to estimate? We need to estimate RA, we need to estimate LA, K, that is the gyrator constant, the inertial reflected inertia on the shaft. There could be lot of things connected downstream. It may be a genset or it may be some other pump or something else, but you need to find what is the reflected inertia and the friction coefficient B. These things you need to, then you will be able to design the controller. So, let us take up first RA. So, let us estimate RA. So, for this experiment you have to block the rotor, means hold it. It should not be made to move. Okay. Why? So, then omega is 0. If omega is 0, what is the back EMF? K omega is 0. So, I do not have to bother about K right now. Okay. So, if you look at this part in the model, it is nothing but you have looked at it. L dIA by dt is equal to VA minus K omega into RA. Okay. And I am trying to remove this out of the picture by making omega is equal to 0 and therefore blocked rotor. Okay. Let us remove this out of the picture by making IA constant. So, we take it at steady state. Okay. So, what you do when you are the chopper you use it as a switch, on off switch. So, if I have this, Okay, this is your VDD. This is the VDD that you are applying here. Chopper is nothing but these two switches. So you use it as on off switch. Okay. So you switch it on. So you will see that VDD is applied across this. It will reach a steady state. dIA by dt will become 0 because it will not withstand a DC, average DC. So then this back EMF is also 0 here. EB is also equal to 0 because we have fixed the rotor, omega is 0. Then the only drop is across this. Okay. So then you have RA is equal to VDD by IA. So you measure IA, you measure VDD, you get RA. So then you repeat the experiments. You can change VDD, set a different value of VDD, but you should understand that there is no back EMF to limit the current. What is limiting the current? Only thing limiting the current is RA. Okay. So don't exceed the rating of the motor winding with whatever the rated current is. Okay. So VA by rated current, RA into rated current will be the maximum VDD that you should apply. So vary this VDD, keep a note on the current, keep an eye on the current, see that it doesn't shoot beyond the rated. So within that rated you do this experiment. So vary VDD and then again repeat the experiment. So basically you need to tabulate many times for different values of VDD, IA, you note down, okay, and RA is VDD by IA, and then you average it. So you average it, you will get the closest value of RA. Okay. In any tabulation, why do we average it? I will visit it later when we are doing optimal. Why do we average it? You would have done lot of experiments right from childhood, right? We have this kind of tabulation, many experiments. You will be tabulating and then you will have the results coming in here. Let's say 10 results. Then you will take the average of the 10. Or if you have done 5, average of the 5. Why do we do average?
Mean of error is equal to
Mean of?
error.
Is it the mean of the error?
No. Let us say there is a true value, then there is a deviation. Right? By all the deviation, then it is going to be 0.
Yeah, but are you meaning that when you say mean of the error, okay, I have a very huge error and a very huge error. Okay, it could be off. Is it this you are talking of, or are you talking of error square? This actually doesn't solve much of a problem, much of our estimation problem, in the sense that the deviation can still be high. But what would actually help us is if you make the square 0. If the square goes towards 0, minimize the square of the error, then our estimate is better, right? Irrespective of the direction. So averaging minimizes the square of the error. It gives you the least square solution. Okay, it is a beauty. So it will give you the best solution for any given set of data, okay, which will be the beginning of your Wiener filter, okay, optimal filter. Okay. So when you do averaging, it is the square that is getting minimized. E square will get minimized, which is more important to us. Minimizing E is, see, the first sample it could be positive 200% error. Second sample negative 200% error. Mean is 0. That was a best estimate. You can't say best estimate. It is a really not a good figure of merit, just taking mean of the error. You should take mean of the square of the error. That is even LMS algorithm, least mean square. Always it is mean square, mean of the square. That only will make sense. Okay, that we will come later. Just I wanted to point out here. Later on we will be doing this optimal filters. At that time you will understand it better. So next we need to estimate LA. Okay. Estimate LA, still continue to block the rotor, don't release the rotor. Okay. Only now you do use the chopper, set it at some very low frequency. The reason why I am saying low frequency is we want the current to reach a steady state, okay, like V by VDD by RA, and also drop, okay, when you release the chopper. So switch on this VDD and take many values here also. But here the crucial thing is that you need to observe IA. This the inductor current, armature current IA. It will look something like this. Let us say I plot the graph versus T, time and IA. And the duty cycle, give it in this fashion. Give a high duty cycle where Q is on, the chopper is on, this one Q, for some time, sufficient time, not that is why I said 1 hertz in the order of seconds, okay, when it would have reached steady state. You will see the current IA taking a kind of an exponential curve like that, where it will reach the steady state somewhere here, and then at this point when the IA goes down, you will see it fall. Okay. So now you look at this falling exponent, this one. So start from here. So any arbitrary value you start. So from that value, when I switch it off, if it goes down by 63%, remaining should be e to the power of -1. This portion will be around 37%. Now that point of intersection here to this would be one time constant, right. So that is what we are interested in, that we will call it as tau A. And what is tau A? Tau A is LA by RA, right. Then estimate LA. You can repeat it for different currents, or you can just leave it at one value. You see that all these you can do it, one is manually, you can do that in the lab, one after the other. You can also program it into your DSP. You see what you need in this, what you needed in the case of the RA, IA was to be measured, VDD was to be measured. So we are having sensors to measure VDD, we are having sensor to measure IA. It's taken into the processor. You can do the calculation, find out the value of RA. Here RA is there already calculated, computed. Tau A is what you need. So tau A you are measuring what? IA. So from the value from the measurement of IA, so at this point D goes 0, initiate a timer. At this point when D is going low, you are switching off, initiate a timer. Okay. So it is freewheeling there through the diode. And you know the starting value of the current at which you made D 0. From there you go, you take 63% down minus. So you know this value. So you put it into a compare register, wait for the timer, keep on counting, and you are sensing. And as IA comes, matches the value of the compare register, interrupt, take that value of the timer counter into a register, and then you have the time constant. From there calculate LA. You can do that, not necessary that you have to note it down by hand and then do it by calculator. If you do that, then it is self-commissioning. Every time you switch on, say self-commission, it should do all this self-experimentation and give you the parameters. Any new motor you put, you do self-commissioning algorithm you will put once, it will calculate all the parameters, one after the other. Okay. So, estimation of K. Now, observe, this is not the machine I am using, this is the machine. You see, this marked blue is actually the machine of interest, unit under test. So, I am now giving voltage to this portion, driving the shaft and then measuring the voltage across this. Okay. So, that is why. So, just remember that this is the machine under test. Okay. I am giving voltage to another machine, it will have some other LA RA, but I want to give some voltage to it and make the shaft rotate at a specific omega, okay, and measure the voltage here, open circuit voltage. So, there are no other drops coming into the picture, omega is fixed, no other drops, which means no IA flowing, no RA drop on this side, all those things. So, just only pure EB you will get. Okay. So, that is the idea. So, connect DC power supply to the generator side of your system. Okay. Even if they are identical machine, better you do it on the machine of interest. Okay. There will be variations, and operate that as a motor. Then vary VDD and measure the speed and EB. Okay. Tabulate similarly. You will measure omega, tabulate that, measure EB, for every value of omega measure EB, okay, and we know EB is equal to K omega. So, K is EB by omega. So, you will get n values, again take the average of that one, K is equal to EB by omega, and average of each you can take to get the. Then on the mechanical side we need B, right. K alone you need to change the setup because you are not doing it on the same machine. So, RA, LA, B and J is on the same machine. So, self commissioning you can do further. K alone you will have to change, you do it once and then keep it aside, you can feed it as a parameter. So, estimation of the B, so use the chopper again here, we have come back to the same machine, unit under test. So, adjust D and bring the speed to a specific value. Here I am not doing blocked rotor, rotor is allowed, free to rotate, it will now rotate. Okay. Now, I have the value of K with me also here. Okay. So, I have this RA, LA and K with me inside the processor. So, the maintain speed at a constant value, what do I achieve? So, on the mechanical side, developed torque TD is equal to J d omega by dt plus B omega plus any other load torque which will, right now you are not applying any other load torque. So, TD is nothing but K IA, gyrator action. I know K, I know IA I am measuring. So, KIA is the developed torque, J d omega by dt plus P omega, I am not using any other load. So, this is going out of the picture, friction will be there. I would like to remove this by making omega constant. So, when I make omega constant, bring it to a steady speed, okay, leave it at that. Then this is out of the picture, I have only this. So, therefore, you can find out B. So B you can calculate, or you can also change the speeds, different speeds. You can tabulate, get few more values of B, take the average of that, average of the many values. So B is again at 0. So what is it you are measuring? IA and omega. Observe that IA is through a sensor taken inside the processor, omega is through the encoder taken into the processor. I have everything with me. B also can be computed within the system. Then finally, the last value J, inertia, all the reflected inertia on the shaft. With everything else connected, you need to do the experiment. You again use the chopper. You raise it to some speed, okay, bring it to some speed, and then you are switching off. Okay. So you can set the chopper at some frequency so that you can see on the scope. You can see on the scope going up and down. Otherwise, you will have to trigger it, store it, and then check. Anything is fine. And vary the chopper frequency. Set it at a particular value of speed. At some value of speed, note on that speed. Again, note down the waveform, wave shape on the scope, omega versus t. Instead of IA versus t, now it is omega versus t. And at some point here, omega, you are switching off. You are switching off the input. And the speed starts falling gradually. And speed starts falling at mechanical time constant, because J and B are coming into the picture. So just like in the case of the IA, we are interested in one time constant. Okay. So wait till you get down to 63%, then take that value as tau m, mechanical time constant, where mechanical time from that multiply by B, J by B is tau m, J is tau m into B. Can repeat the experiment for few more speeds if interested, and then you have the value of J. So like that you have all the 5 parameters with you, and all these parameters can be programmed into the processor so that self-commissioning algorithm you can have it separately. Whenever you have a new motor, fresh motor, you can self-commission it, calculate the values RA and plug in into your model. So these values, when you plug in into the state equation, you have a complete state equation with numbers. Now you are ready to do controls. Okay, first step, that is still it is a continuous model. Next what we have to do, we have to take the system inside the digital domain. System we have modeled in the continuous domain as it is, but all the controller is existing in the discrete domain inside the processor. So we have to shift virtually the plant inside, then design the controller for what the controller sees the plant as though the plant is inside the processor. So that is what we need to do. So the next step for us is to enter into the digital domain and carry the plant along with it into the digital domain. Then we will all be, the controller and the plant, everything will be in the same world, and then you can make the design. Okay. So next we will proceed in that fashion.